Hello everyone. Today we are going to see about science and technology in ancient Greece. This is in Unit 1. First, we will see about the location of Greece and the history of Greece. Greece, this is the peninsula of 25,000 square miles extending from the main land of Europe into the Mediterranean Sea. It is bordered by the modern-day countries of Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Turkey. The capital of Greece, Athens, is located to the south of the peninsula. What do you mean by peninsula? Peninsula means the land covered by three sides by water. So, next we will see about the people of Greece. The early people of Greece were settlers who came by sea from Asia to Greece. So the settlers, they went from Asia to Greece. The pioneers of Greek colonization, these people settled in which place of Greece? That is Ionia of Asia, occupied Cyprus and Greece and the Greek peninsula. The people of Asia, they went to Greece and settled in Cyprus, Greece and Greek peninsula. So these migrants, these waves of migrants from 3000 BC led to the formation of Greek colonies. The Greek colonies were formed in 3000 BC. The Greeks came into contact with older and more advanced civilizations and collected ideas and scientific temper from the ancient empires of Egypt, civilized kingdom of Greece, and the age-old civilizations of Babylonia and Assyria. The scientific spirit they received from this Egypt and the kingdom of Greece and the age-old civilizations of Babylonia and Assyria. So they brought back these ideas to their homeland and shaped into a systematic form. The Greece was the mother of European science and modern idea. That is, in Europe, who was the mother? Greece. The scientific spirit developed by the Greeks 2,500 years ago laid the foundation for future European civilization. So in this sense, Greece was called as mother of European science. So the Greek science arose in the district called Ionia, a strip of land on the west coast of Asia Minor and a group of nearby islands. From about 600 BC, the Greeks made progress in philosophy and geometry. The two fields, philosophy, already you have studied Greek civilization. In that civilization, we have studied about many philosophers. Aristotle, Plato. They are the philosophers. They gave many ideas to history as well as philosophy. Philosophy and geometry. So Ionia became a renowned center of learning. In this Greece, Ionia is the first center. The wise men of Ionia had an unquenchable thirst. Unquenchable means what? They are very interested. They sought a reasonable explanation for everything and considered science as a part of philosophy. And first great philosopher, first Ionic philosopher was Thales of Miletus. He lived in 625 BC to 546 BC. What are the ideas? What are the scientific spirit developed by Thales of Miletus? He established all things were made of water, fell from the sky, and thus lakes and seas were formed. Again, passed through the bodies of plants and animals. Then it returned to the sky to fall again. This cycle was constantly repeated and its pattern was forever fixed. And And as an astronomer, he was not only the scientist, as an astronomer, he learned much about eclipses, about solar eclipses and lunar eclipses. His ideas influenced the development of science to a great extent. Next scientist, this Anaximander. He lived in the century 610 to 545 BC. He was the first man to suggest the Earth's surface is curved and shaped like a cylinder, and based on his observations of the motions of the heavens around the pole star, he picturized the sky as a sphere completely surrounding the Earth. The next, another important person, Anaximander, another man of military. Anaximander, he lived in the 6th century BC, and he was one of the illustrious students of Anaximander. He believed that Earth was in the form of a flat round disk floating in a sea of air, and that the heavenly bodies revolved around it. He stated that the earliest organism lived in water and later it passed to dry land. These are all the ideas of Anaximander. Anaximander told that the earth floats on air. The sun does not set below the earth, but is obscured by the higher parts of the earth. And the next philosopher and scientist, an ancient Greek philosopher, he was known for formulation of an atomic theory of the universe. Democritus of Miletus, who lived in the 5th century BC, he was famous for his atomic theory. The world is made up of infinitely small particles. These infinitely small particles called atoms differ from one another in shape and size. And next, the most famous world scientist is Pythagoras, the Greek scientist, mathematician. The next, in this we are going to see about Pythagoras and his theorem. He lived in the century 582 to 500 BC. The main reason for the development of science in Greece in the early days, as I already told, this Greece was the mother of European science. In this sense, this was a great interest in science shown by the curious group known as Pythagorean Brotherhood. This was an organization. This was an association, Pythagorean Brotherhood. This association continued to be powerful till 500 BC. This Pythagorean Brotherhood once a religious cult. Religious cult means for religious purposes they associated. After that, it was a philosophical school and a political movement. The founder of that Pythagorean Brotherhood, Pythagoras, was born in Samos, an island in the Aegean Sea, in the early part of the 6th century BC. The Pythagoreans devoted themselves to mathematics. Their field is mathematics, and they believed that its principles were the basis of everything. This Pythagoras steeped in geometry. His contribution to the world is in the field of geometry. The Pythagoreans sought to express numerical relations by means of geometrical figures. And he investigated certain numbers as triangles and certain numbers are as squares. And he made many solid contributions to learning, particularly to mathematical knowledge. And one of their best known demonstration was the right triangle. In a right triangle, the longest side, the one opposite to the right angle, is called hypotenuse. The Pythagoreans showed that the square of the hypotenuse of the right triangle is equal to the sum of the squares of other two sides. This equation is worked in all cases. It is still called a Pythagorean theorem. This Pythagoreans worked on many theorems which are still to be found in the geometry textbooks. And the next field, medicine. In the field of medicine, Hippocrates, Hippocrates, he was the father of medicine, and he lived in the century 460 to 377 BC. He was an eminent Greek physician who developed medicine into a science. The first and foremost famous of the Greek physicians who formed a school of medicine. This Hippocrates, he formed a school of medicine. He was a contemporary or a near contemporary of the philosophers, Greek philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. This man, this Hippocrates, he freed medicine from superstition and speculative hypothesis. In those days, people, they believed in superstition, and these superstitious ideas were freed from, medicine was freed from superstition. So this great man, he was born in the island of Kos in the Aegean Sea about 460 BC. He showed interest in medical science. His father, Heraclitus, he belonged to the guild of physicians. And so this Hippocrates, he traveled extensively throughout Greece and Macedonia. What were his major works? Epidemics first and third, and regimen in acute disease and prognostic. These are the works of Hippocrates. In these works, he stressed the importance of careful observation and the classification of clinical medicine. And he said our food should be our medicine and our medicine should be our food. This is the thought of the day also. The proper understanding of the human body was the basis of medical treatment. This was the important quote of Hippocrates. The general principle to be followed in the case of acute fever are written in his book. In the second group of treatises, he writes largely about the technical work on wound in the head and the fractures and joints. And another group of books included essays and compilations representing highly speculative theories on physiology and disease. And he also said diagnosis was the central point of Hippocratic doctrine. He laid down a code of conduct for the medical practitioners. That is, medical practitioners means you mean doctors. The code of conduct is popularly called as Hippocratic Code. For his valuable contribution to medical science, he has been called the father of medicine. And his oath, it is an oath historically taken by physician and a physician assistant and other healthcare professionals. Those who are involved in healthcare profession, they have to swear to practice medicine honestly. It is widely believed to have been written by Hippocrates. Then the next great scientist of the Greek, Archimedes. His age is 287 to 212 BC. A greatest Greek mathematician, physicist, and inventor, and he founded the fields of statics and hydrostatics. A Greek mathematician as well as a physicist, and his inventions are many. These inventions contributed a lot to the benefaction of mankind. He invented a mechanical device useful in times of war and peace. He invented a mechanical device which is very special in the times of war and peace. The first thing, Archimedes screw, a device for raising water and the compound pulley, and established the principles of the lever. And the discovery of the law of floating body and a method of measuring specific gravity was a permanent contribution to physics. The achievements of Archimedes probably made him the foremost scientist until Newton. And so this great scientist was born about 287 BC in Syracuse, Sicily. a Greek colony, and his father, Phidias, was an astronomer and was a relative of King Hiero of Syracuse. His father was an astronomer and he was a relative of the king of Syracuse. So he went to Alexandria. This Archimedes, he went to Alexandria, studied under the successors of Euclid and derived an inspiration for mathematics. For mathematics, he got inspiration from Euclid. And he invented a screw for raising water from the Nile River to irrigate fields. So for the field of agriculture, irrigation is very essential. So he invented a screw, Archimedes screw. This screw is based on two geometrical forms, the helix and the cylinder. He devoted himself mainly to science. Due to his curiosity, he involved in scientific discovery. So 10 of Archimedes' work survived, which revealed his scientific contribution to the world. So what are all the principles he discovered? What are all the principles he said to the world? He discovered the fundamental law of hydrostatics, the equilibrium between a floating body and the pressure of the liquid in which it flows. This is the most important principle discovered by Archimedes. The principle, while pondering the solution of the famous gold-round problem presented to him by King Hiero II of Syracuse. This King Hiero of Syracuse, he gave a problem. He met a problem that is gold. His crown is made up of whether it is gold or adulterated with silver. The king wanted to know whether the goldsmith who had made his crown had adulterated with silver. So he gave that problem to Archimedes. He discovered the solution to the problem while lying in a bath. One day he stepped into his bath and saw the water running over the bath. On seeing this, he leaped out and ran through the streets of Syracuse, shouting, "Eureka, Eureka!" That means I have found. Archimedes found that equal weight of gold and silver displaced different volumes of water. This is the basic one. By comparing the volumes of water, he compared the volumes of water displaced first by a piece of pure gold equal in weight to the crown. Then by crown itself, he found that each displaced different volumes of water. Thus he found that the crown was not made of pure gold. This made him realize that a lump of gold placed in a container full of water would cause the overflow of less water than equally heavy lump of silver. So the silver is lighter. The weight of the silver is light. So it must have more bulk. The ratio of the crown to the weight of the water displaced when completely immersed gave him what is now called the specific gravity of material. In his treatise on floating body, he wrote on floating bodies, he stated that a body immersed in a fluid is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the displaced fluid. And he discovered the principle that a body immersed in fluid loses as much weight as the weight of equal volume of that fluid. This principle is a permanent contribution to the humanity. So, in the field of mathematical science, he invented the greatest ancient mathematician in his mathematical treatise on the measurement of a circle. He calculated the value of pi between 3 1/7 and 3 10/7. Today, the ratio which is represented by the Greek letter pi has been more closely calculated as 3.14159. His best known book is The Sphere and the Cylinder. He proved that when a sphere is inscribed in a cylinder, it is 1.5 times as great as force of sphere. This is also one of the foremost contributions to mathematics. He asked to inscribe the symbols on his tombstone by an appropriate diagram. This shows that he was much interested in science, much interested in mathematics. He also developed treatises on circle, sphere, cylinder, parabola, mechanics, and hydrostatics. These are all the works, these are all the contributions of this Archimedes. He established the principle of the lever. A small force can make a small force, that is the principle of the lever, and he studied mechanical laws underlying the lever. He announced that if he had a fixed fulcrum to work with, he could move anything. He proved that a great force could be moved by a little force. This is the basic thing under the lever. This great force could be moved by a little force. He arranged, not only that, he arranged a series of cogs and pulleys in such a way that he alone, sitting at the end of the point, was able to draw the loaded vessels out of the water into the land. And he designed a war machine. Already we see this. He gave a permanent contribution to mankind. That is, he designed a war machine to fight against the Roman army. When a war between this Greece and Rome in 215 BC, a Roman fleet sailed against the city of Syracuse in Sicily. Great catapults hurled massive boulders at the approaching ship. The other ships were lifted clean out of the mechanical claws operated from the shore. This is the thing, but in that time, giant concave mirrors, that is Archimedes used giant concave mirrors to focus sunlight on the sails of the ship and set some of them ablaze. His geometry is of greater value to humanity than the device he used to defend the city. And his contribution to physics and mathematics were outstanding in the history of science and technology. And a truly remarkable theorist, but was also a practical experimenter. He was not only a theorist, but he has done many experiments. So, the founder of theoretical mechanics, he was ranked with Newton, and he is credited with a sum of mathematical achievements unsurpassed by any man in the world's history. Thank you.